China is a grand old country, extensive in its geography, population, and history. Collectively, it is one of the largest countries on the planet in all three regards, with a history as ancient as India's, and naturally, as it has grown and developed, it is not perfectly uniform from one side of the country to another. Like the other countries we've covered in the series, the country of China is composed of several distinct regions with their own histories, geographies, cultures, economics, and lifestyles, among others. So just as we have done for the United States, Russia, and India before, we'll be exploring and explaining every geographic cultural region of China. China's ancient history, similarly to India's, will simultaneously contribute to a diversity of culture within the country, yet also a cohesion, with just about every population within China having a deeply interconnected past and often roots which converge or intersect, though interestingly enough, that cohesion seems to run deeper for the Chinese, as China's Han population has consistently remained the dominant cultural force within China nearly without interruption, with only the country's fringes being more isolated from its influence. India, on the other hand, has seen power fluctuate between various peoples and regions across its history. While China is home to several ethnic groups, the vast majority, a massive 91%, are either Han or Han mixed. This means that China is ethnically more Chinese than Russia is Russian, with ethnic Russians comprising about 70 to 80% of the country's total population. India does not officially recognize ethnicity on census data, and the nature of ethnic identity in India is a lot more complex than in other parts of the world, with the country largely categorizing its people as falling within broad Indo-Aryan, Dravidian, and Tibeto-Burman groups. But within these groups exists Hindis, Bengalis, Tamils, and several others who might be regarded as distinct ethnicities, ethno-linguistic groups, tribes, etc. However, Indo-Aryans do comprise the largest group at some 75% of the population. The United States, in stark contrast, may be one of, if not the most diverse countries we've covered so far, whether in race, ethnicity, religion, and even language. Approximately 60% of the US population is classified as non-Hispanic white, with the largest single ethnic group in the country being Germans at about 14%. Though combined Brittonic ancestry, that is, individuals of English, Scottish, Irish, Welsh, and Scotch-Irish ancestry, including those who now simply identify as being of American ancestry, would likely stand at about 30% of the population. There's also likely a good degree of mixture between the Brittonic and German populations, which might trade between 1 to 5 points between the two. Religiously, the United States houses a wide variety of distinct Protestant denominations, as well as an entirely separate branch of Christianity with a quarter of the population belonging to the Catholic Church. All the while, the country houses a large secular population as well, along with various other smaller religious groups, and yes, even in language, only about 75% of Americans are native English speakers. While China only has about 18 non-Han ethnic groups whose populations near or exceed 0.1% of the population, because China's population is so enormous, exceeding 1 billion, these 18 ethnicities still have large populations exceeding 1 million. Uyghurs alone, who constitute less than 1% of the Chinese population, surpass the number of Native Americans in the United States. All the while, the Manchu, who some of us here in the United States sometimes refer to as an extinct population, their present population surpasses the number of Chinese Americans, Cuban Americans, and Arab Americans combined, with over 10 million today. Suffice to say, the demographic situation in China is fascinating. Hello audience, Mr. Z here with another video for you. If you're new to the channel, welcome. We have videos like this every week, so be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell for more. The North China Plain is the hub of contemporary and, broadly speaking, historic Chinese power and culture. The lands surrounding the Yellow River form the cradle of Chinese civilization. The river, along with the region's warm climate, have allowed this region to be the fertile breadbasket of China that it is, providing enough to feed its massive population. As these borders are drawn, the greater North China Plain region, with all of its subregions included, is the most populated region in all of China. Agriculture remains one of, if not the chief economic sectors of the region, with the majority of the region's rural population employed in wheat, rice, corn, and soybean farming. This being said, with so old a history and so large a population, development has naturally sprung up across much of the North China Plain, most especially along the coasts, housing some of the highest levels of urbanization and development in all of China, most especially in the highly urbanized sub-region of the greater Beijing area. The region is overwhelmingly Han Chinese, generally speaks Mandarin, largely practices the Chinese folk religion of Shen Dao or Shenism. I know there is some debate as to the precise name of that religion as well, and of course it has a large coastal and river plain environment. Additional subregions include the Sichuan subregion, a basin located within interior China which also largely features heavy agriculture, urbanization, and industry, is predominantly Han, speaks the Sichuan dialect of Mandarin, and practices the Chinese folk religion, however has an environment more distinctly defined by its rolling hills and distinctly milder, moister climate. The subregion of Manchuria is also distinguished by its more distinctly steppe environment and economic specialization in heavy industry and mining. Additionally, while Han Chinese do constitute the majority of the subregion's population, it also features a large number of Manchu, Koreans, and Mongols. Adjacent to the North China Plain, we have the region of Greater Inner Mongolia, a far more arid steppe region with temperatures that can range from smoldering to freezing. As the name suggests, the core of the region features a large population of Mongols. However, as with much of China, Han Chinese still constitute a majority. As a consequence of Mongol influence, Buddhism features more prominently in the region's religious practice, and Mongolian is spoken alongside Mandarin. Despite the region's geographic size, it is among China's lesser populated regions, no doubt on account of its less hospitable environment. Virtually all lands on the periphery of central Han domains being rugged and difficult to tame, whether here or in the other regions will soon cover. Mining and agriculture form the backbone of Inner Mongolia's regional economy, with the region being especially rich in rare earth minerals and coal, housing over a quarter of the global coal reserves. Subregions of Inner Mongolia include the Lowest Plateau, a rough and highly arid subregion which houses a large chunk of China's Islamic Hui population. Next to the Lowest Plateau is the subregion of Jin, where a majority of the population speaks the Jin dialect, additionally being more overwhelmingly Han than Mongolian. To the west is the subregion of Greater Chaidam, an especially arid and desert subregion occupied by various groups, with Tibetan and Mongolian-style Buddhism featuring prominently. Below that is the subregion of Kunlun, a highly mountainous region with a large population of ethnic Mongols. Pushing further west, we have the region of Xinjiang or East Turkestan, a region whose bulk of territory is largely regarded as uninhabitable. The core of the region is housed in the northern lands of Zungaria, a hot, dry shrubland or even desert region littered with mountain ranges, particularly the Tian Shan Mountains, which separate the north from the south. Zungaria is home to a large population of Muslims, particularly of Kazakh, Hui, and to a lesser extent Uyghur background. Han Chinese still comprise a majority of the population, at least within this portion of the region, and while various languages are spoken in the region, Mandarin and Turkic languages are the most common. Among China's poorer regions, Xinjiang's chief economic industries are resource extraction, solar power generation, and heavy industry, with the latter being especially true of Zungaria, where the greatest levels of development are concentrated. However, all in all, hydrocarbon extraction reigns supreme. In the south is the subregion of the Tarim Basin. It is one of the most mineral-rich regions in the country, having large supplies of coal, oil, and gas, yet it is also incredibly arid, inhospitable, and poor. The Tarim Basin subregion is home to the majority of China's Islamic Uyghur population, seeing them constitute an absolute majority in this region and pursuing secession in hopes of attaining a better quality of life. South of Xinjiang is the region of Tibet, the only region which across the board does not host a Han Chinese majority, seeing its ethnic Tibetans constitute over 80% of the total population within this core area. An extremely mountainous region characterized by high altitudes, cold climate, and dry weather, it is among the most elevated regions in all the world. The region is predominantly Buddhist and practices a distinct form of Buddhism from the rest of China aside from Inner Mongolia, known as Montrayana. Tibetan is the most widely spoken language in the region, and economically Tibet is overwhelmingly agricultural despite having significant potential to capitalize on hydropower given its access to countless mountain streams, not to mention likely being extremely mineral rich but not pursuing mineral extraction at present. Like the rest of China's borderlands, Tibet is highly underdeveloped compared to China's coastal core. Subregions include the disputed Arunachal subregion, which we have covered before in our video on the regions of India, as well as the Qinghai subregion to the north, which is more diverse than the rest of Tibet and features a prominent minority in the form of the Qiang people. Finally, we have the region of South China. The core of this region is concentrated along the coasts and does share quite a bit in common with its North China Plain neighbor, being heavily populated, having a similar coastal and river wetland environment, boasting a diverse and developed economy, and more. However, there are some major distinctions to be made between the two. First and foremost being that unlike the more unified Mandarin spoken in the North China Plain, South China features not just one but a variety of distinct Chinese dialects, most prominently Yue, Hakka, Min, Gan, Xiang, and of course the Wu. South China's landscape is less flat and more hilly, its climate is more tropical, it places less of an emphasis upon agriculture and more a focus upon manufacturing, tech, and trade. Overseas trade having historically been and to this day remaining a major staple of South Chinese commerce, contributing to its more diverse nature as it took in more from abroad. Religiously, while the Chinese folk religion remains the dominant religious practice across the North and South, the North China Plain sees greater influence upon its philosophy from Confucianism, whilst the South has been more greatly influenced by Taoism. Further, while the North and South have historically remained united for most of their history, they have also split several times and over time developed distinct, albeit closely interconnected histories and identities, something highlighted by South China's various languages and cultural groups. Subregions include the highly urbanized Yangtze Delta, further distinguished by its unique dialect of Wu or Shanghaiese. There is the subregion of Guangxi, which features a unique hilly and mountainous environment characterized by various large stony karst structures. Directly north of Guangxi are a number of subregions which house large numbers of China's other minority populations. To the west is the subregion of Yunnan, which features a subtropical plateau environment which houses many of China's largest ethnic minorities, including the Yi, Han, and Bai, among others. And there we have every cultural region of China explained. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If there's anything that could be corrected or expanded upon, like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more. Mr. Z, out.